Hey guys, anyways, Help here. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I have a highly requested one. This one is how to achieve all-day battery life on your iPhone running iOS 15. You guys have asked for this one video, so hopefully all these suggestions and options that I will share with you guys will help you get through the entire day on your iPhone. I've seen many users in iOS 15 report issues, iPhone 11 owners, iPhone 7 owners reporting battery drainage issues. So hopefully this video will help. And as always, if you're looking to stay up to date with the latest iOS news and information, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss another episode. Now, the first thing I'd like to recommend is obviously heading over to the batteries department and settings on your iPhone. And this particular category here will give you suggestions and recommendations based on things you can do in order to improve the user experience and the battery overall. Now, auto lock must be enabled in order for you to have a better user experience, number one. Number two, better battery performance overall on your iPhone. So I don't have auto lock enabled because I'm filming the video for you guys, obviously, so I don't want my iPhone to be locked randomly. But yeah, I use it on a daily basis, and you should be using auto lock as well. Now, if you click on this particular portion here, it will take you directly to the category. You can set it for never, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, all the way to 30 seconds. I usually set it about a minute, and yeah, you can set those options directly from there. Now, auto brightness should be enabled as well in order to have better battery performance overall. So if you click here, once again, it'll take you directly to that particular portion of iOS, and you can enable auto brightness. Now, I don't have auto brightness as I'm filming a video because obviously I don't want the display to get too dark or too bright for you guys to be able to see the video, but I do use these two options on a daily basis. I do turn them off only for filming these videos for you guys. Now, high brightness on your display constantly will impact the battery of your iPhone. As you can see, another suggestion here, Apple gives you suggestions for you to adjust the brightness if you don't have auto brightness enabled. And these suggestions are the first things you may want to look into when you first set up your iPhone in order to improve the battery overall of your device. Now, one thing I always get questions is on the maximum battery capacity. The battery capacity on your iPhone, according to Apple, anything above 80 is considered very good. If you have anything below, I want to say 75, I would highly recommend you go ahead and get your battery replaced. That's when throttling starts, when your iPhone gets a little slower, it may shut down, the performance isn't as good. So anything below 75 on this number, I would say it's time to go ahead and get the battery replaced on your iPhone. And obviously, if you want optimized battery, this is the way to go. Optimized battery charging is a feature that will actually improve your battery over time. This will help your battery last even longer throughout the years. So if you're not using optimized battery charging, highly recommend this option to be enabled. It is enabled by default, but for whatever reason, if you turned it off, you may want to consider turning that back on. Now, another category you should look into is the cell data options. Under cell data options, we have cell right here, data options, in voice and data. Voice and data, this is a tricky one because if you don't have 5G in your area, you want this set to LTE. LTE will improve the battery life of your iPhone because if you have it set to auto and 5G isn't available in your region, your iPhone will constantly be searching for 5G, which means it's constantly using the battery. Now, if 5G is the predominant network in your area, I would set it to auto, but right now, LTE will give you the best battery performance on your iPhone, no matter what iPhone you own. So just set it to LTE if you don't have 5G, or if you don't necessarily want to use 5G at the moment. This will greatly improve the battery of your iPhone. And one more thing, data mode here. If you have it set to standard, you're in the good section here because allow more data on 5G, although this option gives you faster transfer speed, data speeds, and also better FaceTime calling, more crisp and clear FaceTime calling. It does drain the battery slightly quicker, especially on FaceTime calls. If you're not connected to a power source, this is going to drain your battery rather quickly. So for data mode, I recommend standard unless you want that great and improved FaceTime calling over 5G. This will greatly improve the battery performance. And another section is all the way down here at the bottom of the Wi-Fi section here. We have the iCloud Drive section. This particular toggle here I like to turn off because this will allow you to transfer things like documents and data over your cell network connection, which in a way it drains the battery and also uses a lot of data. So I turn this off because I don't want all my documents and data to be transferred over the network using a lot of network data and also using the battery up on my iPhone. So I like to do it only over Wi-Fi. So if you turn it off, this will highly improve the battery performance overall of your device. Now, another category you should look into is handoff. So if we head on over into settings, general, and then we go to AirPlay and handoff, these particular categories here you should definitely take a look into. Transfer to HomePod. This feature here allows to detect if your HomePod is nearby so that you can transfer music and phone calls to your HomePod. But if you don't own a HomePod, this is constantly searching for that and it will drain the battery of your iPhone. Now, handoff is also one of those features that you should turn off if you don't own multiple Apple devices and if you don't like working on multiple projects all at once. So for example, handoff will find your Mac or your iPad, and if you're working on an email or on a web browser searching for something, this will transfer that data or that information over to the other device, and you can continue that on the next device. But if you don't necessarily like to do that or need to do that, you can turn handoff off and transfer to HomePod, and that way you will save battery life on your iPhone overall because it's not constantly searching for these particular things around your home using your battery. Now, going into background and app refresh under general and background and app refresh categories here, for this particular portion, I like to set it to Wi-Fi only. Now, the reason I like to set this for Wi-Fi only is because this means my apps will constantly be refreshing in the background only when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, which usually means I'm in my studio or my home connected to Wi-Fi and a power source, therefore not using the battery as much. Now, for iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, a particular option that I recommend you take a look at is under accessibilities and motion. So the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max have limited frame rate for the display of your iPhone. As you may or may not know, the new iPhones have a higher refresh display, which can go up high as 120 Hertz, but this is not used through the entire OS, and I find this feature sort of gimmicky, although it is awesome to have when you're browsing through the OS right here on the home screen. Everything looks snappier. It almost feels like your iPhone is faster. It's something you have to see with your own eyes in person to be able to actually appreciate it. But not many apps are taking advantage of this as of yet, and not the entire OS is taking advantage of this as of yet. So for right now, I would say for the next couple of months, 6 months or so, as apps get updated and iOS also gets more optimized for this feature, I would turn this feature on. This will limit to 60 frames, and this will highly and greatly improve the battery overall of your iPhone day in and day out. Again, iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. Now, under privacy, there's also a particular section you may want to look into. This is something I usually turn off constantly. So location services, scroll all the way to the bottom, and right here where we have system services, if we scroll to the bottom here, we have significant location. Now, I always turn this particular feature off. As you can see right there, it is off because this will constantly be tracking your day-to-day activity in order to suggest locations based on places you visit day in and day out. It does require Face ID or Touch ID to enable or disable, but I like to disable that feature because it's constantly tracking every day to see where you go and therefore draining the battery of your iPhone. And last but not least, another thing I would recommend looking into is App Store settings. Inside of App Store settings, I have most toggles turned off. Now, the reason I have these toggles turned off is number one, I like to update my applications when I'm sitting at home connected to Wi-Fi and making sure I read what the next update for the applications may be. Sometimes new updates can mess up applications, so I don't have the automatic downloads, apps, and updates. I have that turned off for many reasons. As I mentioned, I don't want to update an application without knowing what the update is. And number two, if I'm out and about, this would actually update the applications and drain the battery and use more data. So I usually turn off all of these three options right here and only update my apps when I want to do so. Now, you can do other minor things, of course, to improve the battery life of your iPhone. Things like not using a battery pack all the time is it's a good idea. You don't want to use these extended battery packs every single day, especially ones with no power off switch. Constant power being pushed into the battery is never a good thing, and this creates also extra heat, in my opinion, to the battery of your iPhone, which is never a good thing. Another thing I would like for you guys to stay away from is cases that cover your entire device. The waterproof cases, or so they call the waterproof cases, that cover the speakers, that cover every single port, and even the display with a tempered glass already integrated within the case. I've seen many cases like this. Stay away from those cases that don't let your iPhone breathe. This will create additional heat and stress, and the stress will create the battery to degrade faster, and the performance of your battery overall will degrade over time. So just make sure you do the proper thing and make sure you have cases that let your iPhone breathe. Don't constantly send power to the battery of your iPhone with a battery pack. These are good for traveling in certain instances, not all the time. And that about brings an end to this video, guys. I hope you guys found these tips helpful. Thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.